But that's one main point. It's just like when you have your point, just argue your point, make it as best as possible. It's like defending someone in court. You don't have to be fair and measured. That's for the other side to do. And that's not only is that best to get a point across, it's probably a better environment for the argument to exist in anyhow.
Hello again. I think it's time to throw my hat in the ring of making responses to LAC. In this video, I'm going to do more of a review of his video on Tim Pool. It wasn't so much a video, but just him notifying that he did the numbers on Tim Pool's podcast guests to see how many of them were Jewish. He got roughly like 23%. And just from the get-go, like I did the numbers too, and while I did find some mistakes he made and like some quibbles here and there, I still got like roughly around 20%, depending how you slice it. Of course, that's still like disproportionately high. But yeah, basically just want to go over some of the people that he mistook for being Jews, and then kind of just give my thoughts on the topic. Also, I'm not sure why he didn't include the previous podcast before number 170. I know on YouTube that's like as far back it goes, but you could just look at like whatever podcast apps there are, and it goes back to like I think like number 29 or something. The majority of those episodes didn't have any guests, but I counted around 47 that did, and then I also counted up to the present day, which includes number 748 at the time of making this video. But even including those, it doesn't really change too much, specifically because Jack Murphy, for whatever reason, is just like really popular with Tim Pool. I don't know what that says about him personally, but in the previous episodes, like before 170, he was on there quite a lot as well, along with Malice. But I'll try to go over like all that too. But just going off of his list of people he says are Jews, the first one I spotted that I don't think is Olivia Rondow. He links to this tweet of hers that says no Jewish people in my family, and genetically I'm half and half. So I think she meant to say, and the other person's responses were deleted, so I'm pretty sure she was responding to someone saying she was Jewish, and she's just saying no Jewish people in my family, and I'm half white, half black. So I don't think that's her saying she's Jewish at all. And there's another tweet of hers where she like explicitly says we aren't Jewish in all caps to someone else responding to her, so I don't think she is at all. I think that's just false. And she had about 3 appearances on the show, so to keep that in mind is a good idea. The next one I saw was John Cardillo, or Cardillo. Definitely not a Jewish name. And the evidence that LAC gives is his tweet of another like article by Joel Polak, who is Jewish, but he was like quoting a Breitbart article by Polak. Like he's not saying that I'm a Jew, don't call me an anti-Semite. He's quoting Polak, so clearly he's not Jewish if that's like all the evidence there is. And there's evidence of him saying that he's just Catholic, and I mean Cardillo is an Italian last name, so there's that. He also says Lauren Southern is, and she was on about 6 times. I know a lot of people would say she was because her last name is like Simonson or something, Danish, but she's been pretty clearly like on the record saying she's not, and like I mean she's been in these circles for a long time, so because she wasn't like far right enough, people would say that, but there's just no evidence to suggest she is. And there's a clip of her on YouTube kind of explaining the whole like family being persecuted under the Nazis. It was just because they were like in Denmark and the Nazis invaded, but not because they were Jews specifically.
People are asking me, by the way, are you part Jewish?
No, I'm not Jewish. This is one of those things too. Is people, because I posted a post, I was talking with a native from Canada about reparations and stuff. And I'm like, well, you know, Jews aren't getting reparations from the Holocaust and stuff. My family had to leave Denmark, and we lost Holocaust there. We just had a large trucking company in Denmark, and it was taken, and the Nazis took it to use all the trucks and stuff. And we didn't really have any reason to stay there, so we left for Canada. Not Jewish, but
the guy Andrew Heaton, I know LAC has this little link that goes to like this random website that just says he is Jewish, but I kind of just need more than that. There are a lot of like weird websites that are like that just say like, oh, he is Jewish or he is Christian. Like I've seen that a lot with a lot of this kind of thing. I kind of feel the pain of like looking at people's ethnicity and religious background. I've been doing that a lot lately, so I just kind of need more info than that. I couldn't find anything on his like Instagram or Twitter, and not a very Jewish sounding last name or anything. Next we have Frank Licari. LAC says he's clearly a Jew because he says he's there on account of his tribe at the beginning of Tim Pool's show. I admit I like listened to that segment and I didn't really get like what Licari's joke was, but there was no like mention before or after of anything Jewish. It just seemed really out of place.
Is, quite frankly, hey, Tim, who are you? I come in peace on behalf of my tribe. And so, thank you everybody for having me here. That's just one. And Tim, you know, the last time I saw you, it was the day before you went to Malmo. Oh, wow.
I don't know. I don't think it like really meant that he was Jewish. He might have like tried it. He might have like started to try to make a joke and just decided not to. I'm not really even sure. I'll let others like watch that beginning clip if they want. I don't think it's indicative of anything. And like LAC says, I couldn't really find anything else about him that pointed to him being Jewish. And since we're already creeping on people, his Facebook shows that when his brother passed away, he had a funeral at a Catholic church. And I don't know, he's clearly just Italian Catholic. Next up, we have Milo Yiannopoulos, who's obviously pretty well known. He was on a couple times. He famously would always say that his mom was Jewish, but quite recently he's come out and said that was all like a lie because his mom is crazy or something. And obviously he like associated himself with the whole Ye Fuentes movement. They're having bad blood now, but I'm pretty sure like at the end of the day he wasn't. He does seem like a pathological liar, but also I don't know why he wouldn't have just been lying in the past about being half Jewish, or that his mom was just lying about it, but at least the current data on him, whatever, is that he's not Jewish.
Yeah, so I always thought I was. My mother is a pathological liar, and one of the reasons I ended up gay was her like not having a dad around and having an overbearing, crazy mother, which is one of the things that I've realized thanks to therapy. And when I started to realize that my mother lied to me about literally everything, and that much of my childhood was a complete fabrication, I began to ask questions about whether I really was, in fact, everything she told me. Is my mother actually? And it turns out no. So in that interview that I did with Dave Rubin, I was saying what I believed to be true, which was that I was ethnically Jewish, but it turns out in fact that I'm not. Am I surprised that I'm not Jewish because I have a high verbal IQ?
When I go to the dude DC Drano's Twitter link that LAC posts, I guess it's like a deleted tweet or something. It doesn't show anything there. The guy's name is Rogan O'Handley, so that sounds like super Irish. He doesn't look Jewish like at all. There are a bunch of pictures of him like espousing Christianity, Christian views, him in front of a church, stuff like that. Like nothing he tweets or talks about seems Jewish, so I'm just gonna go with that he's not Jewish until proven otherwise. I know like LAC includes Jews who do convert to Christianity, but there's no evidence this guy is a Jew who converted to Christianity. He just seems like a Christian. Next we have Samira Khan. Both the links that LAC posts are dead links. She's definitely like just a Muslim from a Pakistani background, or whatever, like Indian subcontinent background. I've been told that maybe she was either like joking or said like her distant ancestors were Jewish or something. I don't even know what any of that means. A lot of people also just like to claim Jewish ancestry because it's kind of like niche and cool, like how some people claim to be Native American. And that goes to the next person on the list, actually, Anna Paulina Luna, who as far as I can tell is just like a Hispanic woman who wants to LARP as a Jew who like came from Converso ancestry or something. Even the Wikipedia article that LAC cites talks about her like disputed background, and basically that her father may have like raised her in a messianic Jewish faith, which like includes a belief in Jesus, but that doesn't even matter because he was himself a Catholic, but like chose to convert to Messianic Judaism because like some people just do that. And anyway, like there's just no evidence that she's ethnically Jewish, but she may have been raised like in a weird, basically Christian cult. Also, I forgot to mention Brett Cooper. LAC says that she's Jewish based on a tweet that she made about her like boyfriend, her first boyfriend now being like a pagan Jew. So I assume she just meant that her first, and just like from Tennessee, so not really like a Jewish area or anything like that. But that's what I got so far from just kind of doing like a cursory review of all the Jews in the spreadsheet that he posted. I do want to direct my attention to two that are kind of iffy because they definitely have some Jewish background, but I don't know if they're half Jews or if they're just quarter Jews. And according to his criteria, he says he only goes after half Jews, which I'll talk about later. But if they're just quarter Jews, then I think that's kind of unfair, especially to keep using like the whole, only 2.4% of the population, when that only accounts for full Jews and half Jews who were like raised Jewish and basically still self-identify as Jews. Essentially, it's like a self-reporting survey. That's the whole point of the Pew Research. So certainly by the standards that a lot of like JQers use to identify Jews, I would say the actual population percentage is definitely higher than 2.4%. I know according to the American Jewish Yearbook of 2020, it says that of the enlarged Jewish community with at least one Jewish grandparent, at the least, is 4.5% of the population. Again, that's probably based on like self-reporting as well. So I would just overall say that the proportion of Jews in the country are probably higher than what like these stats that are thrown out usually infer, and certainly by the standards in which people say others are Jews, like when it comes to these like media overrepresentation things, because anyone with any Jewish ethnicity at all or like any heritage is usually brought in. Which leads me to Tucker Max, who LAC shows is a quarter Jewish, but he also points to the Wikipedia article under his name that says his grandma was Jewish, but in another website it says that his grandfather was Jewish. So it's a little confusing because that same website, Max, claims that he took a DNA test and was 25% Jewish. And so his dad took a DNA test and he was 50% Jewish, and they didn't like know that. It was like not like, they just always assumed they were like Catholic Hungarians or whatever. So I definitely trust the website more than the Wikipedia article, because the Wikipedia article doesn't have a citation and it just says his grandmother is Jewish. So I think it probably just got it confused with his grandfather. But regardless, like if the dude took a DNA test and he's 25% Jewish, and then his dad took one and he's 50% Jewish, like, and they just didn't really realize that they were Jews at all. I mean, I just don't really see how he could be considered anything more than just a quarter Jewish ethnically. And this is actually like a pretty good example of someone who like didn't even know they were Jewish until later on in life. Even his father, according to the website, said he didn't realize this was a thing. So it's actually a pretty good example of people who like wouldn't have ID'd on a national survey that they were Jews. So these kind of people are left out of the percentages. And I mean, there were definitely Jews who like fled Europe and then just didn't want to associate with Judaism anymore to kind of like cover up their heritage and stuff. So I think there's definitely more Jews in the country than that percentage lets on. But regardless, if we're going to use quarter Jews in this whole kind of like media overrepresentation thing, then I think that the 2.4% number or stat doesn't really apply and should be enlarged. In my opinion, I would say like a solid 5%, but we could go with 4.5%, whatever. And then for Alex Stein, I don't know if he's half or a quarter Jewish, but I'm going to throw him in there because he says he was like raised Christian and baptized, and he went on Ethan Ralph's Cozy channel or whatever and kind of bantered around with the people on there. And when he was asked if he was Jewish, he said no, because his father's father, aka his paternal grandfather, didn't raise his father. So that leads me to think that his paternal grandma raised his father, who was like a Christian, and just raised her son as a Christian, and then he was baptized and raised as a Christian. So still like a quarter ethnically Jewish, and I guess that would like account for the last name Stein, even though there are people with Jewish sounding names that are just like German, but whatever. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that Alex Stein is probably just a quarter Jewish as well. So it just is more evidence that the 2.4 percentage thing isn't really accurate.
Boys.
Are you Jewish?
Are you single? I'm not Jewish. Are you single?
Yes, you are.
I'm not. I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not.
We call this the reverse Leibowitz maneuver. Actually, you give yourself a Jewish face name.
What do you mean? Your name is Stein.
Yes, but my grandfather didn't raise my dad. And the way you're supposed to be Jewish is if your mom's Jewish. I was not raised in a Jewish family. I was baptized. I was raised a Christian. That's the God's honest truth. What do you want?
But you're an atheist.
So with all that out of the way, I like crunched the numbers, and depending how you look at it, you can get two different percentages. If you look at it just like by each unique individual and not counting reoccurring appearances or anything like that, you get 76 supposed Jews, and then I made a deduction of 10, so that turns into 66. And then I had 340 individual Gentiles, add the 66, and you get 406 total, and it's 16% Jewish roughly. And then if you do it in terms of appearances, you have to count up not only like each individual podcast with a guest, but some podcasts have more than one guest. So you just have to count all the guest appearances total. And that gets to about 750. And there were 141 Jewish appearances. So that is roughly 19%. I have a little master Excel spreadsheet of my own. I'll try to link it in the description. I'm not like super computer savvy, so sorry if it looks sloppy or anything, but I think with both like my Excel spreadsheet, with LAC's spreadsheet, and just like using basic skills and like going on Tim Pool's YouTube and like podcast apps and stuff, you can find this information out as well. Just a couple things I wanted to point out too that I just thought were interesting is he does seem to put certain people as mixed race, so neither like white or Asian or whatever. For example, Lauren Chen, he puts as mixed race. I understand his methodology is to include half Jews and even quarter Jews if they seem to identify as such, but I guess my question is why? Because it doesn't really seem consistent to have people of mixed ancestry not marketed as either one of their like sides, if you will. They're just like their own thing. And I looked through the Jewish people, and I mean, there's a decent amount of Mishlings, like half Jews. Specifically, Will Chamberlain and Jack Murphy are like the two guests that Tim Pool had on the most out of the Jewish population, and both of those guys are half Jewish. LAC did get number 169, the episode guest, wrong. It's not Jack Murphy. It was Ryan Long, who he has also had on like a certain number of times. But regardless, Murphy has been on quite a lot, like I think almost more than anyone else, and it's really weird. Like I don't know why Tim Pool was so interested in that guy, especially like all the stuff that came out about him. But yeah, him and Will Chamberlain had like a lot of appearances on his show, so clearly if they were counted as their own category, the numbers would look way different, at least if you counted it in terms of like guest appearances and not just as individuals. Not only that, like, look, I get the dude's hustle, I get his grind, like he knows what gets the views, he knows what gets the shekels, like I dig it, I totally respect it, and if anything, I think he should throw us a little bit of change. I mean, I know the guy's raking in the big dough with his sponsorship now and stuff, like salute, but I don't really see the underlying like point of bringing up the Jewish ethnicity thing, because it seems like that's literally the only thing connecting any of these people. And beyond that, it's like, it just seems kind of like really uninteresting. All these people seem to have like pretty different views on things. Some LAC even mentioned in his spreadsheet are like devout Christians, like they converted to Christianity. Some are obviously, like I said, half Jews, even quarter Jews. Some seem to be anti-Israel, or at least like skeptical of Israel. Some seem to be like religious Jews. For the most part, Tim Pool is like a center-right guy. So a lot of them, if not like most of them, are like center-right, like centrist types. Certainly not some like SJW, CRT Jewish person. So I guess I just don't really get like the overall point. I mean, I do get it. Like I understand the JQ is a thing, but it just doesn't really, like if you look at it any deeper, it just doesn't seem to matter at all. Specifically because Tim Pool clearly is like his own boss and like he has his own team and none of those dudes are Jewish. Tim Pool's like half Asian, half white. And furthermore, like obviously what stands out is that there isn't a lot of like Black and Latino representation in these podcasts. Like I think even in his data, he doesn't even like account for Hispanics at the end of the day. Like he only shows Asians, Blacks, Jews, whites. I don't know if like what he does with Hispanics. Perhaps I'm missing something there, but like it's pretty obvious that Blacks and Hispanics are like severely underrepresented in these podcast spheres. So if he was to be consistent in saying that Jews are like somehow nepotistically like getting into these positions to be like interviewed on podcasts, I guess he'd have to like say that it's like the white man, or I guess in this case Shlomo, that is keeping the bi POC people down or whatever, and like they're just being persecuted or something. As for me, I think it's quite simple that the Nathan Kaufness default hypothesis deals with this pretty well. Also, Ubersoy and Vivari's video on this topic of Jewish IQ, which is not the sole reason that they're attributing this kind of overrepresentation to, but it's just one of the factors, one of many factors. Just like there are socioeconomic, cultural, historical reasons why you don't see like, I don't know, 15% of the guests be Hispanic and 10% be Black, because that's just not how life is. Like, sorry about it, but that's just not how it is. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video, do this response. I want to definitely shout out Ubersoy and Vivari's video. Also, why not, I'll shout out Joseph Bronski's video, because the Greek's not gay thing, that got a lot of clout too. I know that LAC said that he seemed to suggest that in his video that he hasn't gotten any like feedback or like corrections or anything.
By the way, I have never been contacted and told that my data was incorrect since listing my sources, despite the open offer. Yep.
But that's definitely false. People have made video responses to him. Even on his Joe Rogan one, Vivari made a response, which I did see LAC comment on, but like, I get it. At the end of the day, people are busy and stuff, and like, you kind of just want to move on.
$10. What does Leather Apron think of Ubersoy's debunk of his Jew video? Is he scared to debate him?
I don't know, man. I can't reply to every single person who makes a reply video to me. And this guy's like being a hanger on. I'm just not interested. I'm sorry. Watch both videos and make your... I'm fine people reply to me. I appreciate it, but I don't know, man. I have to make new stuff.
But I don't know. I don't think nepotism is like the best explanatory factor for what's going on here, but I digress. So I think that should be it, and I'll try to put everything succinctly in the description. Follow me on Twitter, all that jazz. Thanks for watching. Peace out.